Edgar came from the lions. Fearless, hopeful, a born leader. Yet, he was a man of deep convictions, never reluctant to face the truth. He was a leader of our people and a spokesman for our justice. He wasn't afraid to argue with non-Jewish people, but also he wasn't afraid to argue with the Jews as well.
He was a man who understood faith, and he had faith first and foremost in his Jewish faith. But he also recognized and appreciated those who had faith as well, who could bring their blessings and gifts to work on behalf of the better world that Edgar sought. One of the first times I had a chance to spend time with Edgar was back in the early 1990s. We were seated next to each other at a dinner, and at one point in the evening, he leaned over and whispered a joke in my ear. It was, as the audience reaction understands, a very Edgar joke. All these years later, I well remember it. I just can't repeat it. But I laughed until my sides hurt, and he took great pleasure in watching everyone watching me, wondering what was wrong with me. I felt fortunate to be crossing paths with such a dynamic, colorful, and charming character. And I decided right then and there that Edgar and I were going to be very good friends. Lucky for me, Edgar decided the same thing.
I think it's really mission impossible to start summing up the long and intensive life Edgar had with all the different areas of interest. Were I here in my capacity as the Knesset speaker, I would have to generalize and address all the issues and all the activities that Edgar had. And I won't do that, because I'm here as Yuli Edelstein. And I'll take you back to 1987. Katya just made one mistake. I was still in prison in 85. I was released in 87. March 1987, I was in Siberia, and I heard that story about 1,000 times from my wife. She could probably tell it better, but she's unable to, so I'll have to tell it in her name. There were 3 prisons of Zion left at that time in the former Soviet Union. Edgar arrived with the group of people, both from his business and the World Jewish Congress. He had a broken leg after some ski accident or something. So my wife was very impressed that he was accompanied by a couple of doctors, but he still came. And except for selling Seagram or buying something from the Russians, he obviously spoke to them about the Jews and the prisoners of Zion. And the Russians, I guess, even those days knew how to put a show. They staged it well. Bronfman and his entourage were meeting with the families of the prisoners of Zion and the long-time refuseniks in an apartment in Moscow. And as my wife always said, that they felt something was, like there was something in the air. So at some stage the phone rang at the apartment, and the hostess answered the phone, and she came back to the room where everyone's sitting, pretty surprised. And she said they just released Yosef Berenstein, who was a prisoner of Zion, one of the 3. They just released Josef Bernstein from the camp. One of the people accompanying Edgar, that was the part of the story my wife liked less, turned to her and said, "Oh, damn it, we were sure it would be your husband." Did we say already, Kol hamatzil nefesh echad miYisrael? He saved many more lives than just one life, and I'm pretty sure that part of all these efforts, his and the efforts of the others, was one of the reasons of my release a couple of months later, and probably even, I would dare say, the fact that Iron Curtain fell down at some stage was no accident either. But that's not enough, because I think if we are talking about someone who really cares about something, he did continue. The easiest way out would be to celebrate the victory, and the victory was great. I guess Edgar celebrated the victory, but he continued.
Well, as a partner for Yigal Allon, I would take Edgar Bronfman for what he did, for the service to the Jewish people and the State of Israel. We are all extremely grateful for that, and may I express it with deep emotions, just like Yuli Edelstein did on his part of the political spectrum. May I add my part of the political spectrum and say there's a national consensus on Edgar Bronfman. May he rest in peace.